الخليل 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 الخليل.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Brothers and sisters, Jazakumullah khairan for joining Al Khalil Institute for this very important topic of is there no life without your wife? Now, people may think, this is a jovial topic or a jovial title, but one title that needs attention. And the reason why we have chosen this topic today, because there are many situations where we found brothers and sisters that are requesting and asking us to cover topics like this very topic that we're covering today. And inshallah, what we would like to do is touch upon the controversy of these topics. So sometimes we have brothers and sisters who are in need, that who say, look, I want to get married, but my family don't want me to get married to this person, such and such. Sometimes we have brothers and sisters that they fall into these haram relationships, but they want to make it halal. And then they're finding obstacles. There are other situations where brothers and sisters who want to get married but don't know how to find the right partner, or don't know the right questions to ask. So these are some of the topics, inshallah, that we look to cover today. And inshallah, we have our panel with us today. Is obviously we have Shaykh Suliman Gani. And those of you who don't know Shaykh Suliman Gani, he is the Imam of Pearly Masjid and the director and the Emir of Al Khalil Institute. Shaykh Suliman Gani has studied not only in his native South Africa, he's also studied in Darul Uloom in Pakistan, he studied in the Azhar in Egypt, and the Grand University in Medina. So Shaykh Suliman is very well versed. And also we have Muhammad with us, which is Shaykh Suliman Gani's wife, who's also studied in the Jamia in Bradford. And also we have Ummi Tasneem Gani, Shaykh Suliman Gani's niece, again, who's very well known in the United States of America. And then inshallah, so these are our speakers today. But without further ado, inshallah, I will get Shaykh Suliman to begin with a short nasiha before we continue the whole one. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Shaykh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Jazakallah khairan, first of all, for everyone for joining this important, amazing Zoom session where we discuss about marriage. And Abdul Aleem is your host, so we would just want you to also send in some of your questions. And this is obviously very different from because we have heard so many talks in the masajid, and there are so many, we have delivered talks on marriage, and so many nikahs takes place. And generally, we normally focus on these reminders during the khutbah and during the marriage ceremony. First and foremost, we commence and we begin and we greet every one of you with Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ومن آياته أن خلق لكم من أنفسكم أزواجا لتسكنوا إليها وجعل بينكم مودة ورحمة. وقال تعالى: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. We thank and we praise Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on this very special day, as already the days are passing by, and in this month of Dhul Qa'dah, every day that is passing by, while there was so much of focus and eagerness and desire for many to set out on this great journey of Hajj, which is farad upon a lifetime. And at the same time, many had made those preparations, and many in nikah and many marriages. Generally, people have already made a lot of bookings and fixed a lot of dates, and are very eager to have the nikah and the marriage taking place. So we have these type of challenges where on the one hand, we say that generally for nikah and for marriage, as there is the requirement that as soon as you find the right partner, as soon as the match is found, then there should not be any delay. And what happens, many barriers have been placed. There may be many obstacles. One is the question that we ask, what happens? How do we find what is the criteria for the selection of the life partner? So just like how there is this issue of concern and worry that there are many of our youngsters, young boys and young girls, and as an imam, we get a lot of messages and we get a lot of requests also from sometimes directly from the parents, sometimes directly from the boy or the girl, and they are requesting the imam to help to try and find them a spouse. And you find that this is a great challenge. There are cases and there are issues of great concern that why is there so much of delay in the marriages? Because on the one hand, we are looking at our society and looking at the relationship and the importance of our communities and society. You see, we may speak about the bliss of marriage, we may speak about marriage. Yes, we need to encourage our sons and our daughters to get married. And then there is the concern and worry that many parents have when their daughter or their son over the age of 30, especially 31, 33, 35, and then they are worried now. Why is it? Yes, there was, and we know that those young, very same girls, when they were in the, in the 20s, they were receiving the proposals, and many had chosen and preferred to give priority to their career focused over this amazing great sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we need to look at what are the reason and what are the causes. Why is the number one, the delay in the marriages? Is it because of the mahar or the dowry, or is it because of the individual preference and choices? So these are questions that need to be raised. So, marriage is one great amazing sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If Almighty Allah Ta'ala in the Quran reminds us, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا, that from amongst the signs that He has created for you spouses, لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا, that you may find sukoon, solace, وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً, and Allah has placed that mawadda and that rahmah. If Almighty Allah Ta'ala in the Quran is reminding us of the signs from the many of His signs, and one of the great signs is أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا, that He has created for you spouses. So if there is a young boy, young girl, and they are living their life and they are still unmarried, and if we are, and we have this question we have been raising with those many, and generally we like to encourage our sons and our daughters to get married as soon as they receive the right, the proposal, if it comes in, and after making the istikhara. Why is there still a delay? When we have the situation, the boy, he reaches a certain age and now he's over 33, 34, 35, and still not showing interest in getting married. Yes, he knows that he has to get married. So this becomes a cause of concern, because when the time comes for him to get married, then he is not going to look at those young girls and that have already reached the age of 31, 32. He's now going to say, I am looking for, now he says sweet 18, and he's going to look at 20s. He's going to look at those who are much younger than him. So we are facing with so many different issues that on the one hand, we may give you this talk and tell you about the bliss of marriage, selection of the life partner that you have heard, criteria for the selection of the life partner as Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how beautifully he explains, and he gives us the simple way if we want to remove the many of the obstacles and the challenges that you are facing. Let's go back to the original and sunnah way of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because if you say nikah min sunnati, nikah is from my sunnah, whoever goes against my sunnah is not from amongst me. So no, everyone knows that here it is. Adam alayhi salam, he's enjoying all the bounties and the blessings and in ni'mah in Jannah, and yet Allah Ta'ala creates Hawa alayha salam, because whatever a person may be enjoying in this dunya, الدنيا متاع وخير متاعها المرأة الصالحة. The dunya is a place where you may take that enjoyment, where you may take and enjoy, and you may take benefit from the dunya, as it is a place where there is enjoyment. But from all of that which you take enjoyment, the best of which is خير متاعها المرأة الصالحة, is to have a woman of piety. And hence Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gives us this beautiful criteria for the selection of the life partner. تنكح المرأة لأربع لمالها ولجمالها ولنصبها ولدينها فاظفر بذات الدين. A woman get married for one of four reasons: either her jamal, either, her beauty, her wealth, her status, or her deen. So now we have to ask ourselves as parents, here is my son, my daughter, proposals have come. What was the reason these proposals were rejected? Who is the one who decides? You have the nikah, you have the wali, you have the one that is really, we speak about the father who plays the role as the guardian and the representative of his daughter, for example. And we have been dealing with many cases where the boy and the girl, they find that there is compatibility, they want to get married, but it does not meet the criteria of the parents. And then we have the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that a woman gets married for one of four reasons. تُنْكَحُ الْمَرْأَةُ لِأَرْبَعٍ لِمَالِهَا. So now the intention, whatever the intention of the person is, if he decides and he wants to get married because of the wealth, or he is looking at the beauty, or he's looking at the status, if he looks at all of these criteria and he ignores the taqwa and the piety and the character, then you will find that this marriage, because the foundations were not based on taqwa, we say وَعَاشِرُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, that you should be kind to your wives, you should treat them with softness, with kindness. As we know, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had laid so much of emphasis also on the status or even of the women, and even the reminder for the men how they should be, they should behave with their woman, with their wife. But here is the question: when a marriage takes place, but from the beginning there was not the right, or if we ignored the correct, the criteria for the selection of the life partner, then after marriage, all other issues now come suddenly. A time passes by, this person, he looked at their beauty and that beauty faded away. Sometimes in my young days, or when we used to give the talk, we used to say, this person is, we speak about beauty, and when beauty fades away, if beauty becomes a beast, and then the man, the intention has changed. Now he, instead of focusing, understanding what is the bedrock of that marriage, he is now his mind is now being, he goes and he starts wandering and he's looking at other women, and then he forgets what was his intention when he had taken and when he entered into marriage. So it is not, once the first, we say the foundation of the stability or the marriage itself, it has to have a foundation that is on taqwa and piety. So if you only look at the wealth, and the wealth, it doesn't stay forever. Today it's there, tomorrow it's gone. If the status, it is, again, looking at the honor and the background, all these issues and many of the cultural issues that we have brought into our marriages has also caused unnecessary delay. So let's first and foremost, we have to first focus on, if we say we want to fulfill the rights of the children, then it is important that the first way in order to fulfill the rights of the children is to choose the right partner. And in order to make the right selection, the selection has to be based on looking at the taqwa and the piety. That is the main criteria. The akhlaq, the character. Imagine the time passes by, and looking at the conditions of how many marriages, especially even during the pandemic and the lockdown, there were many issues, many families, husband and wife, entered into disputes. And now we know that there is also the the criteria of how to resolve many disputes. وَإِن يُرِيدَا إِصْلَاحًا, if both husband and wife, they intend and they have that desire to reconcile, then Allah will make them and give them the tawfiq to reconcile. But it has to come from both partners. You know, it's like saying they have a haqq. So all these issues, when it comes to such an important topic, we are saying there is no life without a wife. But the question is this getting married? And this, you know, with many a times and the challenges that many women are facing, if Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had laid so much emphasis for even how the men should behave towards their women, there are many women, many, you know, we're speaking about and we make dua, especially when you have your own children and you would love to see them get married, but then we fail or we don't understand that there is also the rights. You know, the husband has the rights, the wife has the rights, the children have the rights. But how do we as a society, as a community, if we really want to look at the many of how we can help and support the many of the families, then especially for those who are unmarried, we need to give them some guidelines. Today only, I received a call of issue, you know, many questions pertaining to divorce. So then there is the questions on divorce, and then there is the question on what happens if that marriage does not work, because one is saying there is no life without wife. But then there comes a time in that marriage where, you know, the marriage is like, for example, is on the rocks, and no person can say that he doesn't have marital problems. Because this is what we have to bear in mind. You see, it's very easy to say that, you know, this is a very happy marriage. But can you give me an example where a husband and a wife, they don't enter into disputes? Every marriage, and that is what the bedrock of that stable marriage, or where the stability lies, if the foundations of that marriage is in taqwa. Wattaqullah, if there is fear of Allah in whatever we do, then you will find that this marriage, yes, because the husband understands and the wife understands what are their roles, what are their responsibilities. So with all of the challenges, whatever the husband and wife face in the matrimonial life, they will able to have the coping mechanism. They will able to resolve the issues that they're facing. And for that, there are many other different guidelines, because today was just to give you an overview of generally the main issues of concern that many families are facing. And that is the reason why many a times it becomes challenging for women, especially our mothers or sisters and daughters, and they want to address certain issues, but they don't have somebody whom they could help and support or give them some guidelines, and hence one is to be easily accessible even as the imams to help and support, and other is today we are fortunate to have for a dedicated Q&A session with Muallima Tasneem, who is based in the USA, and she is also my niece. And given that she will be taking your questions, I think it is very useful and important. And even though, yes, my wife will be giving also a talk dedicated for the sisters, and I always tell her that, you know, it's how you look at it. Either one, it is either going to be sabr and shukr, which means both will enter into Jannah. Because if there are times where she will be making sabr, and there are times where I have to keep on making shukr. I can't even say I'm making sabr. But anyway, that is how life is, because marriage is not just, you know, as the saying goes, we always, you know, remind our youngsters that when you're getting married, you know, they are excited and they are making a lot of preparations. So we said generally it is surur shahrin wa ghumum dahrin. So some may not agree, but when we explain and clarify that your month of happiness and joy that you have enjoyed for the first month, where husband and wife, they are coming and they are, it is the relationship where two individuals are coming together. And now they are not only going to come together, they are going to be living together. So now they are not going to be making a house, they'll be making a home. So it is not an ordinary relationship, because now your sururu shahrin, your month, you decided to go on your honeymoon and you decided to have a nice time and you went and you enjoyed yourself. It was only husband and wife, and there afterwards you are now also, the extended family. You have to have that relationship. It is not only your husband, it is now your father-in-law and mother-in-law. It is not, you see, the relationship now, it's extended, it goes beyond. And therefore, your ghumumu dahrin, it means now you have more responsibility. It is the time comes that there was the time, she was only the daughter, and then she became a wife, and now she becomes a mother. So look at how Allah has kept that as soon as the child is born, now there is another relationship. So therefore, you will find that in every marriage, there are going to be challenges. There will be, there's this natural bonding and attachment that the mother may have for her child, her son, her daughter. And then there will be challenges that the husband will face after the child is born. So you see, this relationship, it will continue. The father and son, the mother and daughter, all these, it is the journey of life. But how do we, in every part, in every aspect of our life, when we just say, it's easy just to say there is no life without wife, but it is also understanding, knowing how important it is, the most important part for the society, for the community to make it a healthy society. Everything really is about this amazing relationship, which is the most important is the marriage itself. Because if there is stability in the marriage, then you will find that these children will grow up in a healthy environment. As soon as we have messed up with this important relationship with the marriage, because if we really go back and see where is the root cause of the many of the problems that we are facing is إِذَا أَتَاكُمْ مَنْ تَرْضَوْنَ دِينَهُ وَخُلُقَهُ. If anyone comes and asks your daughter's hand in marriage, and then you should get them married. If anyone comes and you are pleased with his deen and his character, the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he is beautifully explaining, إِذَا أَتَاكُمْ, whomsoever comes and you ask your daughter's hand in marriage, and you are pleased with the deen and character, you get them married. Because if you don't, تَكُنْ فِتْنَةٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَفَسَادٌ عَرِيضٌ, there will be fitna, there will be fasad, there will be more mischief. Look at the beautiful example in the teachings of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There is no doubt وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ, that indeed you have a very high standard of character. So if we really look at the many of the marriages that have broken down, because one is, we say husband and wife, alhamdulillah, we understand Adam alayhi salam with all of the blessings. So a person, he could be, from the outside, the dunya could have been opened up for him, and he could be, he has everything of the dunya. But if he doesn't have, he may have a palatial home, he may be living in a palace. But if this person doesn't have a partner in his life, لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا, look how the Quran explains, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ, that from amongst his signs, أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا, that we have created for you azwaja, we have created for you spouses, لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا, so that you may find that sukoon, that solace. So this is the signs which Allah has given us. So therefore understand the importance of marriage alone is that you, with whatever you have in the dunya, if you don't have that spouse, if you don't have a partner, a wife in your life, and you will not enjoy and not have that solace. And there are many other objectives behind, obviously, marriage, whatever it protects you and it safeguards you, and from the sin that we may, if we have time, we will go into it. But the second point, first we want to emphasize that yes, if there are questions, I will also look into, if you are sending, I think, Abdul Aleem, are you taking some questions?
So yes, brothers and sisters, so the main Q&A for sisters will be after the sister session. But if you've got any questions for Shaykh on anything that is touched upon now, anything that you feel is important, or a topic that you want Shaykh to touch upon, please put it in a group chat, inshallah, and I will ask Shaykh the question. So it's really important, because this is also a discussion that we want to have is, are there any issues that you have that you are facing, or are there any obstacles that you're facing that you want Shaykh to touch upon? Sometimes we have a lot of different methodologies that people follow in a lot of cultural things, and sometimes it plays a part. So if you put your questions into the chat, and then I will interrupt Shaykh during his talk and ask him some of these questions, inshallah.
I think we have one question that has come in.
Yeah. So Shaykh, Shaykh, the man is responsible for spending on the wife, and he has no right over her wealth. This I understand clearly, but do you have any guidance when a woman earns more than a husband to avoid a potential conflict, such as giving a gift to a child that the child originally asked the father, but he couldn't afford it, and then the father may feel undermined? So, what do you think, Shaykh, to that particular question?
I mean, are you saying that the wife is earning more than the husband?
Yeah, wife earns more than the husband, but sometimes obviously the father wants to give the child a gift, but he can't afford it through his own wealth. Now, then the wife gets the gift, so the father feels undermined. So, what would you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of it is we have to bear in mind that whosoever is earning that money, it belongs to the husband or the wife. So that is I mean, that is very clear. If the wife, whatever she earns, it belongs to her. And that is why, when we are discussing Islamic wills and inheritance, we ask the husband and the wife, each that is either the husband and wife, they should have their own records of whatever they have ownership on. So it's just like even the mahar. If the mahar is paid to the wife, it belongs to her. If he has not paid to her, it still remains as an amana, and that is what he still has to pay to. Even if he has to pass away, that is a debt upon him. If there are children, father cannot afford to give the child. I mean, this is where the relationship should be such. Hunna libasul lakum wa antum libasul lahunna. They are his garments and he is their garments. So the husband and wife, they support each other, they conceal each other. It's like how when you're wearing your clothing, how does the husband and wife? So if they want to build a good upbringing of their children, and if it means they are supporting the children and not showing and giving them opportunity to take sides, I think this is which builds up a healthy relationship. So it's no harm even if the wife is giving to the child and it is as if the child feels it's from the parents. I think this is important, especially when it comes to giving of the gifts for the children. But maybe that can be qualified if they still needs more clarification.
So someone has asked, do we run a matchmaking service? Unfortunately, we don't run a matchmaking service, but inshallah Al-Khaleel Institute does run a nikah service where we do perform the nikahs readily available. We do the certificates, and inshallah we also will in the future be holding where Shaykh Suliman will be holding a few sessions to therapy sessions, so family therapy sessions, and sometimes where husband and wives do enter into disputes, and sometimes you can't get in.
Yes, with the family therapy session, alhamdulillah, I was able to do a 2-year course with the WCEN, Wandsworth Community Empowerment Network, in conjunction with the family therapy clinic, which was, so we are a qualified practitioner and helping with families. It's called systemic family therapy, which inshallah at another time, it is more about looking at different other type of interventions to help and try and resolve marital disputes. We do acknowledge and understand that in every marriage there's going to be a dispute. So no marriage, you can never have a marriage. Even myself, I fight with my wife. We all have, every person, no person can say that his marriage, but it's all about how do you look at the teaching of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. One example is, if you say something and, if something does not like you or you don't like anything even in the wife, then there are many other things that you look at which will make and give you the understanding of appreciating and valuing this great, amazing relationship, this marital relationship. So one should not focus on the negativity, and that is why I think Abdul Aleem has pointed out to this maybe some sessions where we already are dealing with many disputes, but Allah Ta'ala make it easy, and that inshallah we'll get more details later.
Okay, Sheikh, one other question which I think is quite important, someone has asked, is regards to the wedding itself, and how important is it to, in this time and age where, to keep the wedding to a sunnah. We see extravagancy in terms of people having high mahars, or, whole expenditure is more than, say, a deposit on a house. Sheikh, so we have these kind of scenarios. If you could briefly touch upon that, Sheikh. We've got a lot of questions coming in. Yes. Some of the questions we will leave for the sisters. So if I do not answer it now, it will probably be answered in the sister session. So for those who have asked certain questions, majority of them are sisters. Inshallah, the sisters will answer those questions. I will make sure that the sisters are aware of those questions and they get answered.
Yes, Jazakallah khairan. I mean, we have now, with the new regulations and with the restrictions of the number of the people that can attend the wedding ceremonies, and I think it's still sitting at 30, which may be up to 50, I believe, may rise. But anyway, when you look at the nikah itself, and if we look at the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, أعظم النكاح بركة أيسره معنى, the nikah where there is more barakah and blessings is where there is least amount of expenditure incurred. So yes, I also support the view that it is better for the parents, rather the money that they would have spent on hiring this, halls and exorbitant and the extravagance, and that the food is so much of wasted even in the weddings. And our weddings have become so westernized. Really, we should now look into, especially even during these days when there is this, with the lockdown and the restrictions, we can have very simple weddings and we fulfill the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, like that you announce the nikah, nikah, that is more important. And you ask, the people make dua and blessings. So most important, we try and keep our nikahs and the marriages as simple as we can, and you will see more barakah in it, inshallah.
Yeah, one of the questions was asked, we said in a way that if people don't know where to start to look, so you may have some brothers or you may have some sisters that want to get married, and they don't have the vast contacts, or they don't know many people. Where do they begin? Where can they go to, or who should they approach, and what should they be doing?
Yes, and I can see a private message. I'm not sure if you got it. It says, how would you know a woman is truthful, that she is vigilant in her prayers? What the quality is of that prayer? How do you know? So you're asking about many people pray for cultural reasons, but it doesn't impact upon their character. A family will naturally claim she is more pious than she really is. So that is all related, because how would you know? This is where no person knows the privacy, and hence, there is this issue on selection of the life partner, the family, the relations, the making inquiries. It's like when somebody comes and asks your daughter's hand in marriage, and you investigate, and this is the time it is allowed and lawful for you to investigate and to inquire about the character and akhlaq, because you are only we may only be looking at the outside, but we will not know unless you have rightly pointed out. How would you know? One is also, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu in ja'akum fasiqun binaba'in fatabayyanu. When it comes to that which is, you who believe, if a sinner comes to you, then you make tahqiq, and you make certain, and you are aware. Generally, when it even comes to narrations and hadith narrations, you will find that you always have to investigate. And especially when it comes to nikah and marriages, when you are accepting a proposal for your son or daughter, then this thing is the responsibility. And that is the beauty of the importance of having that wali, or having that guardian, and having somebody to check for you, inshallah. Allah make it easy.
So Sheikh, another question that we got is with regards to So if a woman is already 24 and earnestly wants to marry but gets no proposal or suitors, and her parents don't make any effort, you know, how do they find a spouse? So vice versa. So brothers are similar situations. That, you know, where do they start? Where would a sister and a brother start if, you know, they're not getting any proposals, or, for example, parents are not making the effort? You know, what do brothers and sisters do in that situation? You know, where should they be going?
Yeah, I mean, this is where we need our masajid, we need the support, we need many more to help. And, you know, it doesn't help the situation if parents do not actively get involved and support and engage their son and daughter. So I think this is a really great concern and worry that there are many who have taken this very lightly. They allowed their son or their daughter to focus on their career. And now the time come, and now they want to get married, and we are dealing with cases unbelievable. Sadly, that those who would have been married probably 5-6 years ago, and given that they have themselves by their own choice also, but now how do we find the solutions? And there are many who have set up many different type of organizations and matrimonial agencies, you know, all these. But we just need to see how we can make them more Sharia compliant and try and fulfill the regulations. But we need to really help and support those who are still unmarried. And also there are many cases where sometimes, you know, a marriage may not have worked out, and there is a genuine reason if the marriage did not work out. You know, it's not like, it's like abghadul halal ila Allah azza wa jal at-talaq, because there is stigma attached to it. I'm dealing with a case, for example, the boy, the marriage didn't work out, and now because it divorce, whenever he's going to look for the girl and they want to, you know, to offer his proposal, as soon as they hear that this person or her were divorced, then they, you know, they have their reservations and they would not want to take forward with it. And this is why we have a challenge. So we need to go back and also see removing the stigma that is attached, because a talaq and a divorce, abghadul halal ila Allah azza wa jal, it does happen that sometimes no person knows that a marriage may not work out and the best would be for separation. But even the Quran explains that when there is, you know, separation, it is also separation with kindness. So even in the separation, if that marriage doesn't work, it should be with, you know, in kindness. So that is why we're saying that there are so many issues that we need to look into. Those who marriages did not work out also, and there are many who are divorcee, they also would need to get married. And hopefully maybe in the next Q&A session or in our next session, we will also try and cover these topics.
Sheikh, so we've got two situations here, Sheikh, where somebody, for example, you know, they found the person that they want to marry, but the parents don't agree, and they won't even, you know, entertain the idea of seeing that person, or they don't mind, but they think that they should wait, say, 3-4 years. You know, what advice would you give? You know, what should the you know, brother or sister do in that situation, Sheikh? This will be the last
question. When you really
question.
think about you know, the situation of how Allah has really given us the warning, especially for the delay in the marriages. You know, when there is a lot of delay and unnecessary delay, and when there is a fear that the husband, because of the delay in the marriages, or the girl, and they, so what is it better? Is it not that they support and help them to get married instead of they remaining? And I think you are pointing out that if the boy and the girl, they know each other, they want to get married, but the parents are not supporting it. So there are times that the parents can lose their guardianship, you know, like in nikah, la nikah illa bi waliyin. If there is a valid reason, meaning if they are placing obstacles and they're not supporting it, then they can lose that right for the decision to be made. It can be left entirely on the son and the daughter. So I think it's first we take the necessary guidelines and steps we try and explain to the parents, but if they fail, then I think they would need to look into maybe the uncle or somebody elderly in the family. And it is always useful to see if the imam and the local scholar can help to try and to get them married, inshallah.
الخليل 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 الخليل